So I'm currently... Can you hear children's voices?
No, I can't.
That's great news. Because I'm currently in a library right now. And the study rooms are located in the children's department. And so...
That's a very funny place to put a
study
corner.
Kind of interesting.
Amongst the curious children.
Yeah.
Getting their read on.
The Rugrats.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but apparently I think there's like, they're called creator spaces, and they have like audio booths and like stuff like that. But I needed to do like an orientation
with, like, equipment
thing. I think so. But I think I need to do an
Wow.
orientation in order to use it, and I didn't have time to do that today. So next time.
Okay.
Next time.
Fair.
We'll see.
Next time you'll
explore the creator
You'll get 'em
space.
stamped. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And speaking of libraries.
Okay. Speaking of libraries.
Welcome to Justice
Hi,
of the Round
everybody.
Table. We're talking about libraries today because they're wonderful and good and awesome.
Yes, and I'm Audrey.
And I'm Izzie.
Yes, we're talking about libraries this week, and I feel like you should break the bottle on this one.
Break the bottle?
You should let us set sail on this one.
Okay.
Because you've got the library love deep in your soul,
It's
and I know
true.
it to be true.
Oh my gosh. Actually, I was talking to my dad this morning, and he said, apparently, I don't remember this. I vaguely remember this, that I would ask to be taken to school early in middle school so I could hang out at the library.
That rules.
And I don't remember
gosh.
why, but I guess I do remember, like, I felt like in elementary school, the school librarian was like my best friend, which is kind of funny, I think. And my mom works at a library.
Yes.
So I love the library. The library is great. I go to the library all the time. I have 4 library cards and for 4 different counties. And I constantly use library resources all the time because they should be used and we should be using them. And how are we going to keep the libraries open if no one goes to the library to use the library resources? Come on, guys.
Come on. Please. Let's get into this because it's so, all of the stuff that I ever see about libraries, especially from the authors that I read, it's just them talking about how important it was for them to grow up in a library and to have access to the worlds of fiction and sci-fi and fantasy and all of these things that, like, there's no greater gift to a young mind than literacy and access to books that they can read. Like, it's the best thing ever. Like, you're introduced to new worlds and new perspectives beyond anything that you could have gleaned from only living in your own head.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about books and the power of literature.
Oh my gosh. We must.
There's absolutely no way to avoid it. But specifically Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. Like, I just listen to interviews and read interviews of theirs sometimes, and both of them were just like, yeah, everything I have, I owe to the library and owe to being able to access that.
Yeah. I even setting aside reading, which is one of my favorite things ever to do, ever in the whole world.
Yes.
There are so many valuable things that the library, like, provides, like, especially over summer break when, kids don't have school to go to. You gotta entertain those kids somehow, and you can't do it just with screens.
No.
Most libraries have children's programs that are usually educational in some way. They're very fun, they're very interactive, and librarians put a lot of time and effort to plan these things for you. And usually it's a free thing you can just go to, and you can have so much fun. I remember I went to a comic workshop hosted by libraries. I've done D&D sessions at libraries. What else have I done? I do a lot. I accompany my brothers to library events all the time. And that's what I did growing up, too. I did, like, summer reading programs. You get a little incentive for reading a dang book. You read 30 minutes, check off the little thing, and you come back and you get a little prize. It's just great.
And librarians are people who want nothing more than to get you in the door and to help you and to find you exactly what the next book that you're looking for is, or the next learning opportunity for you is. Like librarians are such wonderful people.
They are. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had like a bad experience with a librarian. That's like, if you work at a library, you probably love it there, huh? You probably like
seriously.
it there, huh?
You're not working at a library because you this was like the last resort.
Yeah.
No. I think it's weird too, because like in so much of 80s and 90s high school pop culture movies, it's always like the librarian is this asshole who's like shushing the kids and stopping them from having all their fun. And it's like, the person who was writing this movie clearly wasn't someone who was interested in what the library had to offer.
Have you been to a library in the last 5 years? I don't think you have. Because they're not like silent space. Like, there are like quiet areas. But I mean, like, I'm in the children's department. I hear kids playing and it's fine. They're at like a fine volume right now because they're kids, and this is a place to have a good time.
Yes.
It's a magical place. You can read any books you want.
And they've got more than just books. They've got comic books.
Yes.
They've got
audiobooks,
poetry, audiobooks,
usually.
DVDs,
Yes.
CDs. Yeah.
Even like
all of these things.
Yes, like ebook apps sometimes, depending on the county you live in.
And if it's a research library, they've got academic papers.
Oh yeah,
which is
out the wazoo.
Interesting. Out the wazoo.
Yeah, crazy. I know, like, at least at the school we went to, we had the special collections area.
Yes, oh my gosh.
And they had like huge collection of like art books, and I don't know, that was really
like
interested in the art books. Yes,
too.
artifacts as well. Oh yeah, that's right. We had like Sumerian tablets, I think, at ours. Super cool stuff. And you can just like, if you have a card, you can make an appointment, say like, hey, I want to look at this stuff, check it out, and they'll let you. You can just do that.
Yes. And it's part of the job of librarians and archivists and people who work in the library system to preserve the artifacts that they do have there, which is also, I think, so interesting. Like I at the library we had at our school, I checked out a very, well, not super old, but like an 1800, I think it was 1800s horror short story collection by M.R. James, just called Ghost Stories. And it had been read so many times and was such an old book that at this point, I'm sure it was not printed in the 1800s. I'm sure it was a much more recent printing, but it was, you know, a paperback that had been read enough that the covers had fallen off. So it was the job of someone in that library to create a new cover for it in order to protect it, which I think is so fun too. And obviously with all of like the special collections and stuff, there are people who are specially trained to protect that knowledge and art, which is so cool. I love it.
So cool. I remember we had a printmaking class. I think it was intro print, and one day we went to this one area, and they brought in a bunch of the special collections books that they had, the art books, and it was so cool, especially seeing like how these artists have, and art books aren't like always traditional, like, you know, front cover, back cover, pages in between. Like sometimes there was one example that was like, it looked like a filing cabinet, and you could pull out the individual quote-unquote files, and there were like, you know, sticky notes and all kinds of stuff, and all that classified as an art book, which is also interesting to learn. Like, you have so many unique things that are available at your fingertips if you're just willing to look for them. And
did you ever take the bookmaking class?
I didn't. I wanted to.
It was cool just because I was someone who grew up with only the very traditional idea of the book, so when I took that class and learned about artists' books and the idea of books as a medium for fine art instead of just for a place to put down information or show images and whatever, that was really cool for me. I think it's not even something that I've really done much art of, but it made me much more open-minded to that sort of idea, which I was a big fan of.
Me too, yeah.
Because knowledge is power, guys.
Knowledge is power. You know where knowledge is free? At the library. Guys,
it's at the library.
You can even probably, if you ask nicely and you're honest about it, you can probably get those library fees waived, probably.
Oh yeah.
If you're nice about it.
Yes.
And don't lie. Say, I just, my little sister left it, blah, 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 blah. Just be honest. Own up to it.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll be like, it's fine. You know what? Actually, the library doesn't even get the library fines. It goes to the government. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah, a library doesn't even get that.
Well, I mean, the library is part of the government anyways, but you're saying it just gets redistributed?
Yeah, that 25 cents doesn't go back to the library.
Damn it.
But still pay your library.
Still pay your library fines. There's I was gonna say how much I love JSTOR. I know it's an online library like database, but oh my god, like when I think I had access to it in high school, but I was not taking a single paper that I wrote seriously at all in high school.
No.
Because why would I? And then I got to college and was taking like art history classes and stuff that I was like actually pretty interested in. And for the first time ever, I was like actually kind of hungry for academic resources. Like I wanted to feel like I was learning things from the things that I was reading about. And I remember my second art history class, we got to choose whatever artist we wanted to write about and to like create some sort of paper on it. It was very open-ended. And I ended up doing one on Van Gogh, which is not like an unusual pick or anything.
Sorry.
Pretty popular artist. But I like Van Gogh's stuff, and it was very cool for me to feel like I was capable of learning more about him in an academic sense on my own. And I did that by reading academic papers about his work and his life, which I think JSTOR is very exciting because it's like I know that these if it's there, it's a reputable source. At least it was when it was at the time it was published. You always have to look at the dates of stuff, but it's we're not going to talk about
how to write
academic integrity, how to write a paper.
Source is reliable.
Primary versus secondary, none of that. But it's fun. It was fun for me to engage with stuff for the first time at an academic level where I actually felt like interested in it. I loved it.
Agreed. It's so annoying when you find like a paper that's like, oh man, this is gonna be perfect to cite for my paper, and then you have to pay like $50 to access it. Dude. What are you talking about? No way. JSTOR, come on.
Okay,
get my back.
Can I tell you something that I figured out the other day?
Yes.
And I don't know if it's true or not, but I saw somewhere. Couldn't possibly tell you where.
Okay.
Tumblr.
Got it.
I saw somewhere that you can, if you just like, if you see a paper's authors, like an academic paper's authors, and you reach out to them through their institute, they'll just send you the paper because like they're not trying to gatekeep that information. They wrote that paper in order to put it out into the world, to get that knowledge and information out into the world. Their hard done research out into the world. So if you find yourself in a position where Google Scholar is asking you for $100 to read this paper, try and reach out to the authors directly and see if they can just send it to you, because more than likely they will want to do that, which I think is very cool.
And that's why you don't wait 2 days before the essay's due, because I don't know if that doctor's going to get it to you in time, dog.
True.
Start researching early. Don't be like me.
It's so hard not to, though.
It's so hard not to.
It's so hard.
My best work, not my best work. Most of my work comes
when you know that you can slide by with a B on the essay, writing it 2 days before, it's fine. Like, it's hard to convince yourself to start early.
Yeah. It's no good.
I also, I'll stop talking about academic papers in a minute, I swear. But I had to write one also for my sci-fi lit class, and we had read the first book that we read for that class before we got into more modern stuff like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep and some like kind of, one of them was like YA. I was not a fan, but it was no good. But the first one that we read for that class was Frankenstein, and that was the first time I'd read I talked about this last week, god damn it.
Did you?
But Frankenstein, it was we again, it was like a very open-ended sort of research paper where we could talk about whatever we wanted, and Frankenstein had been such an interesting story for me that I ended up researching a lot about it. And you could either do a creative project or write a 10-page paper.
Yeah.
You know that I chose the creative project.
Obviously, duh. Duh.
So I drew a 30-page comic.
Whoa, okay, 30 pages is crazy.
It's okay.
That's
because
wild.
I didn't understand what a comic was at this point. So my like rendered comic was pencil drawings.
Oh, well, that's fine.
It was
still a comic.
But the thing is, and here's the thing, Izzy, now that I've gotten better at better in terms of like I guess anatomy and like rendering.
Mm-hmm.
I think my comics suffer a little bit for it, because I went back and read that first comic and I was like, this is wild and free storytelling that is happening right now, and it's funny, and I like the visual humor is very good, and I don't care, like it's not a clever story, it's not anything that hasn't been done before. It was very much like me being like, oh, I'll do a more futuristic sci-fi version of the modern Prometheus Frankenstein thing. So it wasn't like groundbreaking, but it was fun, and it was like the characters are intriguing, I thought. So I don't know,
interesting.
Maybe food for thought, but
yeah,
I think I got a little bit too rigid.
Yeah, I think so.
With my stuff, with my art. I'm trying to loosen up again.
You should do that. You should try to draw comics without the expectation that they're going to be polished and perfect and rendered. Yeah.
I think I ended up doing those 30 pages in like a span of 2 weeks, you know?
Wow.
So like, it's not that they were like super, right? Like it's not that they were like super detailed or anything, but I was doing a lot of storytelling because I made 30 pages of a comic in 2 weeks.
That's wild. So did we even get to 10 pages in our comics class?
We didn't in our semester.
No. But then the next semester
we got to 5.
We did two 5-page comics. I can't even imagine doing a 30-page comic, even if it's just pencils. That's wild. That's so crazy.
It was fun though.
I bet. I imagine it had to be, huh?
Yeah.
So interesting. You do have to like get out of your head sometimes, because I find that if I open up a sketchbook and I'm like, whatever, I'm just gonna draw something stupid, then I'm like, whoa, actually I kind of cooked here. Oops.
Actually, wait, yeah.
Actually, I kind of cooked
as hell right here.
Oops.
Heard, chef. Heard.
Wait, hold on.
It always happens though, right?
And then for an assignment, I'm like, wow, this actually isn't good. Well, not that it's not good. It's just like I not the vision. It's not. It's not scratching my brain like a sketchbook sometimes does.
Oh shoot, I forgot about this. My mom a long time ago for my birthday got me. There's a library, I think it's in Brooklyn, that has a sketchbook collection. So what they do, it's like a program where you buy a sketchbook from like a craft paper cover, like, you know, like flimsy, like little 5x8 sort of sketchbook, and they send it to you in the mail, and you fill it up, and then you send it back to the library, and they put it on their shelves. Like they file your sketchbook into their collection.
So cool.
So they've got it. Yeah, it's awesome. And I wish that there were more things like that, or maybe there are things like that and people just don't know about them and they're not as talked about. But I think that's such a great idea, because I mean, we've talked about it before, but I like sketchbooks and seeing people, art people, creative people's process of how they're like figuring out the visuals of something that they're drawing.
Yes.
Is like almost 100% of the time more interesting to me than the final product.
Absolutely.
And, like,
yes, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. Like, I don't care. Like, yes, I love your beautiful rendering of my favorite podcast character. Cool. But I like your sketches more.
I want to see what's in your head.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So the idea of a sketchbook library where you could pick up a sketchbook off the shelf and flip through it, you're going to get an idea of who that person is from that sketchbook, more so than you ever would by looking at one of their rendered paintings.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that's so cool.
I love looking on that note, like at concept art for animated movies. So cool. So cool. Yes. I love seeing like all the unique and like visually interesting ways people are thinking of these characters when they're exploring these personalities. It's so fun. And then they clean it up so that the market likes it or whatever, so that you can make plushies out of it or whatever. I love seeing that stuff. That's why I love collecting art books. It's my favorite. It's my favorite thing. It's so cool. And I wish there were more art books in libraries, because I have yet to see any in my public libraries, which I think a part of that might be like people, like they get stolen. Because I know that players' handbooks for D&D, they get stolen. And so that's no good, guys. That's no good.
When the fee to return it is only 25 cents.
I mean, yeah.
It's like, what if I just take that? Which is unfortunate, but also I get it.
Just get a find a free PDF online. They exist. I'll send them to you.
The player's handbook is all over
the internet. All over the place, guys.
I promise.
I have a couple.
I have a couple too. Email us at gestureспod@gmail.com. I wish they had like, well, okay, are museums the libraries of art?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
But they're not free.
No, not all the time. Sometimes they are.
Not all the time, sometimes. Well, I guess it's just the big ones that are making money are not free, but a lot of the smaller ones.
You know what is free? The Smithsonian.
Yeah.
I want to go to Smith. I could spend probably 2 months going to the Smithsonian.
Did you go while you were in New York?
Well, it's in DC, so no, I did not.
Oh, but wait, there's also a Smithsonian in...
Is there? I didn't go.
The Natural History Museum. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I also want to go to the Smithsonian. Tell me about the New York Public Library, though. I've never been.
Okay, so first of all, it's giant. First of all, it's huge, and it's made of marble, and it's very gorgeous. And fun fact, I didn't even see any books there. I went to the gift shop, and then I went to the museum they had in there, and there was a gallery, exhibition, and it was very cool. They had some really neat stuff there. They had Winnie the Pooh and his friends. They had the original ones there.
Oh, wow.
And they were all tattered.
With Christopher Robin.
Yeah. They had all the little stuffies there.
Oh.
And they had George Washington's farewell address. And they had,
wow.
yeah. It was kind of crazy that it was right there in front of me. Kind of wild. Ooh, spooky. It's George Washington saying hi. But they had a bunch of other stuff too, and I was geeking out to my friend about intaglio printing because I was like, oh my gosh, you could see all this.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's so cool.
So fun.
Okay, I have to have a quick Terry Pratchett appreciation moment right now because two things. First, there's a character in the one that I'm reading right now. His name is Otto Krieg. He's a Uberwaldian vampire. Uberwald is like Germany of Discworld, and he he at some point is telling something dramatic to one of the other characters, and he says something, pauses, waits for the thunder to strike,
okay,
and then remembers that he's not an Uberwald and that it's not going to happen. Which I think is awesome.
That's pretty funny.
It's awesome,
actually. That's
and
so
then the other
dramatic
thing was that he's like, and here's the lightning, cue the thunder, and then
it's anytime now.
Okay,
never mind. My
missed
bad.
the chance.
Now I look stupid.
Now I look silly. Oops. But then the other thing is that Terry Pratchett, I mean, he's like, you can tell that he's worldly in everything that he does, but in this one specifically, he was tickling all my art history things. Mm-hmm. Like, because there was a part about intaglio printing, because Otto Krieg is the photographer for the paper, and this is before modern printing. This is all on old presses. So he's using intaglio printing methods in order to have colored pictures, like the first colored pictures in a newspaper, which I was like, Terry Pratchett, you're so cool.
So cool for that, actually.
You're so cool for that. It's so fun. And there's a character who's like, he's like a thug who is, by all other measures, kind of like portrayed as dumb, but he is so intelligent when it comes to art history and like identifying objects of art historical importance.
So
like he'll just, it's crazy. I love the complexity of Terry Pratchett characters. It makes me so happy. Can I tell you about the Terry Pratchett library?
Yeah. Well, I didn't know there was one, so please tell me about that.
Oh, this might be enough to convince you to read Discworld. Okay. So, the wizards in Discworld books, in Ankh-Morpork, which is it's London. It's Terry Pratchett's London that he put in his fantasy books. The wizards there have a big university, called Unseen University, and they have a library there with a bunch of old wizardly tomes that are like, they've got, you know how they used to chain books up in medieval times to like keep the knowledge in. This is like, they're keeping the magic in. Like, these books are so powerful and full of knowledge that the magic is leaking out of them, so they have to like put them in special things to like, depending on the book, what magic is in that book to like keep it in, keep it safe.
lest they nestle in your brain.
Lest they... Okay, you just took the words out of my mouth. I'm gonna... Can I read you a quote right now? Because you just took the fucking words out of my mouth, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Soul Music, I think it's the book before this most recent one of Terry Pratchett's that I read. This is what he says. You took the fucking words out of my mouth. The library didn't only contain magical books, the ones which are chained to their shelves and are very dangerous. It also contained perfectly ordinary books printed on commonplace paper in mundane ink. It would be a mistake to think that they weren't also dangerous just because reading them didn't make fireworks go off in the sky. Reading them sometimes did the more dangerous trick of making fireworks go off in the privacy of the reader's brain.
Awesome.
Yes, sir, you took the words right out of my mouth. Because yes, that's what it is. That's the power. That's the power of books.
Powerful.
Ugh.
Also, side note, if
yes.
you see a book is banned, maybe you should read it and find out why.
Read it immediately.
Read it immediately. Why do you think it's banned? Tell me that. Why do you think it's being challenged? Read it and find out why.
Read banned books.
Read banned books.
Please. One of the books that, because now we're gonna talk about libraries. I promise. We're already talking about libraries, but one of the books that was like one of those, fireworks go off in the brain sort of thing. For me, it was the first time I had ever read an explicitly gay book. Not like sexually gay, just romantically. Mm-hmm. These are two men who love each other. Mm-hmm. And it was Bridget Collins' The Binding. And I picked this book up at Barnes & Noble because it was about bookbinding. And at this point, I was in AP 3D art binding books as my year-long project. So I was just very into bookbinding. And I saw a book that on the blurb on the back mentioned bookbinding. And I was like, that's the book for me. And I didn't understand anything about my queer experience at this point. So I just picked this book off the shelf, took it home, and devoured it like I had not devoured any book in my entire life. I was gripped by this because it was literally the first time I had read a queer love story. And I didn't even know I didn't know it was possible beyond the idea that two people of the same gender can like each other. I didn't understand the depth of that beyond that like general statement at all. And then I read this book, and it's not even, I haven't reread it since, but it definitely was a paradigm shift in my brain. Yeah. After I read this book, I was like awoken to the idea beyond only an intellectual level that love with someone of the same gender is possible and can be beautiful and incredible and wonderful. So read books. So read books, I think, is the message that I have for you there.
I don't remember what the first queer book I read was, but I do remember we had a book club in high school, and one time we read a banned book, and he said, like, the librarian ran it, and he was like, you guys, like, for real, you guys cannot tell anyone we're reading this book, because, like, I will get fired. We read it. It was The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. And I think he's problematic now, but that book was still very important to me. We don't learn a lot about Native Americans at all in our in our school system, at least. Reading it from the perspective of, I think he's in middle school or high school, was also interesting because then that put another, like, relatable lens onto it. Like, it's not like it wasn't like intellectual and abstract. It was like the real thoughts of this kid, which was really nice to read. And it's a dang shame that it's banned in so many spaces. But anyway, I appreciate my librarian for giving me access to that book when I shouldn't have had, quote unquote, shouldn't have had access to it.
Yeah. And now we're on the topic of banned books, so let's talk also a little bit about censorship. Because sometimes if a book doesn't get banned, it gets censored so that it's more palatable and appropriate or whatever. And I had a frustrating experience, and a lot of other readers of this book did, with Monstrous Regiment. It's another Terry Pratchett book. It is, in fact, another Discworld book. So I went to the bookstore to get this book. I don't go to the library as much as I should. I go to bookstores more than I go to the library, unfortunately. It's a problem, but I like seeing the books on my shelves.
That's fair. I only really buy books if I read them and I loved them a lot, and then I buy it.
Yes, and you need them in the personal collection. but I was there at the bookstore, and I knew this was different than Bridget Collins' The Binding, because I knew that this book was explicit, or not, yes, it is explicitly queer. There are like lesbian couples in there, but there's also like, it's never explicitly stated that there's an exploration of gender identity and transness and all of that stuff, but it is very much rooted, like you can't read it with a modern lens and not take that into consideration when you're reading the book. And the original one, in the original Terry Pratchett text, published in the UK, at the end of it, there's a character who has been living as a man in the military, as like a captain of the military for the last like 30 years, and eventually decides to like return home to his family as himself, as Captain Jackram. And in some of the later the later reprintings of the book, it was changed to misgender him. And it's like, that's just so wild and so frustrating. And the same thing happened with one of the characters who ends on a very androgynous note, like it's ambivalent as to whether they're choosing to identify as male or female, because their name is Maledict, they're a vampire. I love them so much. They in the original text, it says that they walk out in uniform, but in some of the later adaptations, reprints, it says that they walk out in female uniform. Okay. And it's like, guys,
why does it matter?
That's the whole point. The whole point is that Terry Pratchett was leaving ambivalent to be interpreted by the reader as to what Maledict is deciding to do with how they present themselves. And that's just so frustrating. I'm glad that like that's something I wouldn't have known without the internet. Yeah. So like, as frustrated as I am with the internet, I am thankful for it, for the accessibility of knowledge that it provides, and that the fact that I got to know that there were those different prints of the text, because for me it was a very important book, again, for like my understanding of the queer experience. So, and it's written by a straight white British dude. Yeah. But the characters are so earnest and genuine that it resonates regardless. So, well,
if you're a good author, you just write people. That's the secret. Just write people. You don't have to do anything special for them.
Exactly.
You just write people. People are like, how do you write female characters? You write a character. That's how.
You write a character.
You write a character.
Just write a character.
And then look at that. She's a woman. That's crazy.
Oh wow, that's almost like that's secondary to everything else.
Almost. Who knew? That's so wild.
It's so weird how quickly you can tell when female was the first thing somebody thought of for a character versus anything else about this character. And it doesn't matter who the author is, if they're male, female, non-binary. No. You can tell immediately when a character is written to be female versus just to be a character who happens to be female. So frustrating.
Can I pivot a little bit?
Please, yes. Wherever you want to take us.
Thank you. I found this a long time ago via the internet, and it's the Oakland Public Library.
Okay.
The Oakland Library, they started cataloging things that people leave in books, like little notes and pictures and origami and strings and garbage and all kinds of stuff. And if you are bored or want to do some kind of research, you can go to their website, oaklandlibrary.org, and they have all the little they have a whole catalog. There's recipes. I'm looking at a Pokemon card right now. They have they've got a lot of great stuff, and it's just stuff people leave in the books that get returned, and it's so wonderful. I love
nothing more human.
Oh my God!
Seeing the annotations of another person inside of a book. Nothing more human.
I love little things that remind me how much I love humanity as a whole. First of all, Oakland Public Library. That catalog is awesome and amazing and incredible. And if I look at it too long, I'm gonna cry. But I checked out a book, and it was Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. And I checked it out because I read it a very, very long time ago, I think in middle school. And I remember it blew my mind, but I literally didn't remember any of it. And I read it, and I don't really know why it blew my mind. I guess because it wasn't like a YA novel, but I read it now and I was like, okay. But anyway, there was someone who wrote annotations in there, and it was they weren't like academic or anything, which is my favorite kind because they were like personal ones. Like I took a picture because it was so funny.
You sent me this picture.
I think I did.
I got a kick out of it too.
He was describing one of the characters who is short, and he like kept dogging on him. Like he said he was holding a glass of champagne, and he said the glass was to him what a fishbowl would have been to a normal man. I don't think so. And then the annotation said, really? Really? And then anytime like Kurt Vonnegut wrote anything like that, the person who checked it out was like, okay. Like, really? Are you sure? It was pretty good. And then like at the end of the book, they wrote a list of each page that said something derogatory toward this character.
On one of the blank pages? Yeah. Dude, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
Why do they leave?
I don't know.
Blank? I'm so dead ass. Why do they leave blank pages at the end of books?
I don't know. I've always wondered
If not for you
this.
to write in them. If not for you to write in them.
Not for you to write
literally,
in them.
what the fuck is it for? Because that's what I wrote. The first time I was consciously aware of the. Listen, this is cool.
I'm listening.
This is a good human thing. The first time that this happened, and I like consciously realized, I was like, wait a minute, why would they not just not print these pages? Like, why would they include these pages in there? Yeah, wasting paper. The first thing I did was like write a poem. It was barely a poem, but I like wrote a poem on that blank page asking why there were blank pages at the, I don't even remember the poem, but it was me asking why there are blank pages left at the end of books, if not to read, if not to write in them or not to draw on them or something. And ever since then, I just think about that all the time, and it's like, I don't know. It's so cool, and I hope that everybody feels the freedom to write in books.
Yeah.
Because it's so cool.
I'm one of those people who, prior to college, I was against writing in books because it's my book, and why would I taint it with graphite when it's my book? Are you kidding me? But now I realize the value of annotations. You've been sending me your annotations of the book you've been reading, and they're very delightful to read.
I read on every page, guys.
Yeah. You've helped me realize that I think I might remember my books and I might connect with them better if I start annotating them, because then there's a relationship happening. Like the book's giving me something and I'm giving the book something, and we're having a conversation.
Yes. That's extremely poetic and beautiful of you.
I'm going to post that on my
yeah.
on my Tumblr.
Please. I'll like and reblog.
Thank you. But yeah, since I check out from the library so often, I guess I don't really have a lot of that opportunity. I do have a lot of books at home, but they're in boxes. I'm so excited to unpack them one day. That's going to be huge for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to write all up in them.
And then I told you the other day a little bit, but like, man, we already had libraries on the mind, huh? It was inevitable that we were going to do this episode. Yeah. I told Izzy the other day when we were calling about my house growing up. We had like the front entrance. You go in the front door, and the entire left-hand wall of that first room, like the living room, was a floor-to-ceiling bookshelf. So I grew up. My mom's an English teacher, studied King Arthurian literature, got a good degree in King Arthurian literature in college.
Awesome.
And I grew up with that in my living room, like the first thing I see. So the idea of living without books visible in a home is just like silly to me. Like I think every single house, every single room in every single house that I've lived in has had a bookshelf in it.
Wow.
Since I've been alive. Like even our kitchen has always had a place for recipe books.
Recipe books.
So it's just like, I love recipe books. I love
all books. I don't use
recipe
books, but I love the idea of them, especially if they're annotated.
Right?
Or like
familial, ones that are passed down.
You took the words out of my mouth.
we have a couple. We have some from my grandma, like 2 generations back, like my grandma's mom, some of her recipes, and my grandma has added to that book, and my mom has added to that book, and now I think my sister has it. So that's generations of knowledge being passed down about how to cook delicious meals for your family.
That's so wonderful. I think we should write a family cookbook.
You should write a family cookbook. I think everybody should do it. And I love the idea. And you told me that your mom wanted to have enough books. You tell me. You tell me.
My mom I get my love of reading from my mom. My dad doesn't like to read. He'll do an audiobook, I think, but he has to find the right book in order for him to be interested in it. But my mom, she reads like hundreds of books a year. Like, she's constantly, if she's not listening to an audiobook, she's reading a paper book, like constantly reading. And she has a huge collection of books. She wants it to be an official library one day. Like, I don't know what the specific number of books is, but apparently you can have like a legally binding like library. And so she's on her way.
The idea of a private collection.
Yeah.
Is so intriguing. I love that so much.
In the bedroom.
In the bedroom. I thought you meant for a second as a sexy thing to be like, yeah,
why not?
To be like in the bedroom to be like, yeah, I have a library. It's all my own.
I mean, I'm sold.
As a turn on, that's crazy.
You got me, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. But like, I love both Izzie and I are a big fan of printmaking, and one of my first printmaking projects, it was the first time I was doing lino cut, because it's much easier to carve than woodcut is. I did an ex libris, like I did a custom book plate for myself, and it was like way too big to actually be put inside of a book, so it's just for the sake of art.
Yeah.
But you know, I love the idea, because that's all like a private collection is. It's just having books and then being like, these are my books, but I am going to give them to people who want to read them and that I think would benefit from them. I love that idea. It's so cool.
It's very cool. I know my mom's also toyed with the idea of having a little free library, which if you don't know what that is, it's like a mailbox. It's like a big old mailbox. You got
a birdhouse.
And you got a bunch of little books in there, and your neighborhood, your community, you can come through and you can take one, and you can exchange one. You could donate one, and then it's just a teeny tiny little library for your community that you can just use, and it's also very good. How great!
And if you're annotating in a little free library book, nobody's going to say a word. Oh. Like, you're not going to get yelled at. You're just going to be engaging directly with your community when they're picking up those books, which is really cool. I like that.
Oh, man.
I am crazy enough about a certain couple of books on my shelves that I've lent them out from my personal library. And I'm so obsessed with the idea of giving close friends and family members books that I have printed. Like, I've named my own personal library many times and printed out custom like library cards to give to people when I loan them out my books, just because it's like it feels like a very special.
Yeah.
It feels very special to hand someone a book, trusting them that they will one day return this to you, but they will return it to you having read this story that you have also read and held the same book in your hands. Like, I've read my dad's copy of Interview with the Vampire twice. Before that, my mom read it. Before that, my dad read it. And he had lent it out to his friends while he was living in another state before I was born. So, you know, like, that one book has been in our family for, 35 years, and 5 different people have read it at least, and it's like,
that's poetry.
I love that. It's beautiful. It's remarkable. And when I'm a weirdo for old world aesthetics and like making things really feel special and a little bit reverential. So like, a lot of times if I'm loaning out a book to somebody, I'll like wrap it in like brown paper and like tie it up and like draw on it and stuff.
Audrey.
So that I want it to feel special. I want it to be an experience.
That's so cute.
It's so important to me because I want it to, yes, I want them to like feast on the knowledge that the book is giving them, but I also want just it to be a really beautiful experience for them. So I do that a lot. I did that for Neverwhere with one of my friends in high school, and then I had a friend who was a computer science major who I was in Italian class with, and I told him that I had a Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I love his writing. It's very funny. And my friend had said that he wanted to read that book for a while and just couldn't find it. I was like, I have it. Please let me bring it to you. Please, nothing would make me happier than to put this book in your hands and for you to get to read this copy of my book. and he did, and he enjoyed it. So it's a very special thing to give someone a book.
Yeah.
You don't know how many. I'm a freak, so I think I've thought about like fully annotating a book just to send it to you, so that you can read it.
Okay.
With a fully yes, yes. Of course, I've thought of it. I'm gonna wrap it up in brown paper, and I'm gonna give it to you, and you're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, that rules.
And I know that if I take the time to make it that special, that you'll read it no matter what it is.
Absolutely.
So I can get you to read whatever book I want.
I'm putting everything aside and reading it right now. Are you joking? What?
Yeah, so that's my master plan.
Yeah, that rules. You should have kept that a surprise.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, I'm like, now I'm
Ruined it.
so excited for I'm so excited for the next day and the next day after that and every day until it happens. And then I'll be excited that I read it forever.
Good.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
glad.
that's awesome. Okay. Cool.
Cool. Normal. Everything's normal. Everything's fine.
I do love getting like used books rather than fresh new ones because
Yeah.
I order them from thrift books usually. And number 1, they're cheaper. Number 2, reduce, reuse, recycle. Number 3, I've got little, hey, this is for you, Jackie, who, my little superstar. And then I read it, and then Jackie scribbled on one of the pages, and that's awesome. And I get to see that Jackie read the book.
Dude, inscriptions in books, we need to bring that back right now. There is nothing cooler than opening a book and seeing that someone has addressed you personally inside of this book saying, I read this book and I thought of you, and I think you need to read this. I have ideas on the mind, but I can't tell you anything else lest I ruin the surprise. So I can't say anything else. So I'm going through my Rolodex in my head, compartmentalizing those ideas
Rolodex.
so that later, my Rolodex, so that later when I am doing this cool thing for you, that I'll remember those cool ideas.
Okay.
But I have to compartmentalize them before I say the next thing, otherwise they'll be lost to time. The index cards will be burned away.
I told my dad about that, and he's like, I'm surprised you guys know what a Rolodex is.
Of course I know what a Rolodex is, bro.
Come on, it's one in my brain. Of course I know what it is.
It's right here, bro.
It's right here, bro.
Before it was a Rolodex, because I grew up with a family that had Mac computers, it was... This was like... I don't know what Mac OS it was, but it was like... It was not as sleek, not nearly as sleek as it is now. And it was like there was a 3-dimensional like ring of little JPEGs of folders that would spin, and you could like scroll through the folders. That's what it was. It was a black void in my mind, and then floating 3 or 4 inches off the ground was just tons of yellow manila file folders all in a circle.
So
And I
that's
could flip through
interesting. I never had a Mac, but I had like an iPod a long time ago, and it had a similar situation with a rotating
Was
thing.
it in your mind
It
files
was in my
also?
mind file. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, but
Okay.
as I've gotten older, there's like file folders in there now because
Okay, yeah.
gotta
We gotta
organize
stay
it now.
organized.
Yeah, come on.
What's wrong with us? We're crazy. Oh my god. What the fuck? That's wild. Gotta fucking stay organized, man. I love library databases and online libraries a lot.
Oh my gosh, it's so nice because I can just go on the website and I'm like, I would love to put a hold on this book. Please, no one take it. It's mine. Please.
Yes.
Be there later. Just set this one aside for me.
Also, the idea of public domain, I love. I love it when things go into public domain from the canon. Very fun. There's. Have I told you about the LibriVox website? Probably.
I know what LibriVox is, but just you tell me about it.
Okay, my teacher in 8th grade, one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. She was like, Audrey, if you really like books, you could record public domain audiobooks on your own. I was like, okay, I mean, I don't think I need to do that as a 14-year-old, but
Why not?
it's a really cool idea. And I don't know why, but I've remembered that name for ages. And I've gone on there since, and there's just like full one act or a one person Macbeth plays.
Yeah.
It's like just one person doing all of Macbeth, and it rules. I love it.
LibriVox, if you don't know, is like it's public domain audiobooks. And I discovered it in the vampire class that I took because we had to read Carmilla, and I wanted to find a Carmilla audiobook, and I found one on LibriVox. And then I made an account, and I was like, I'll read some, but then I never did. But maybe one day, now that I got this fancy mic.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe.
We could record. We have 2 people. We could do a dramatic reading of Parable of the Cave. I don't know. I'm trying to think of two different voices.
Dude, that, in my English class, that blew my mind, actually.
It blew my mind too, man. Dude, I have the first time I was told that story. I didn't even read that story. I was told that story.
Interesting.
And I literally have not forgotten it since the day I was told it in 11th grade, I think. Like, that was one of the paradigm shifts for me.
Yeah. I had to read it in 10th grade.
Hearing that story.
And then we watched The Truman Show after, because, like, yeah.
Okay, wait, we did the same thing.
Really? Okay.
We did the exact same thing.
You know, that was a teacher that nicknamed Sebastian a Seabass. He was the cool English teacher.
Okay.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, Allegory of the Cave is, I think about it a lot.
Oh, Allegory of the
Cave,
yes,
and it's really important to me.
Yeah, okay, I read it for the first time yesterday. Because it's...
What?
It's
okay.
Yeah. I listened to it. Listened to that story being told in 11th grade by my philosophy teacher, and then I read it. I found, because it's public domain, and it's been in publication for
a billion years. Yeah.
For a billion years, since before the dawn of printing. So I just found a PDF online, and I read it for the first time, and I was once again like mind reblown just by re-experiencing that story in a format that I hadn't engaged with it before. It's beautiful. If you haven't read Allegory of the Cave, please do.
Just do it. I know it's written by Plato. I know.
I know.
It's old. But
it's so
for
old.
For real. We need to be reading these things, everyone. We need to stay literate. We need to stay literate. Don't look at the Cliff's Notes.
No.
Don't do it.
Well,
just read it.
And this, like, it's like, there's some old stuff that feels old and, like, it doesn't apply to the modern day, or it isn't as applicable as it could be. Parable of the Cave is just as applicable today as it was the day it was written.
And what was that?
Like, I don't know. I was avoiding saying it.
I know. I'm messing with you. I don't know either.
I mean, there was a line in there that was like literally a perfect metaphor for late stage capitalism. And I was like,
wild.
What? Like, you were writing at the dawn of democracy, and you're like this accurate. Like, I don't know. I guess Plato just understood the human condition enough to just understand to be like a predictor of the future. But it's wild. It's crazy.
Oh, I've noticed that the libraries, at least for the past few years, have started serving lunches or snacks during the summer for kids.
Awesome.
Which is very good. Use library resources, please, because they're great resources, and they're constantly trying to defund libraries, constantly, all the time. If they have the numbers, they can justify why they need so much funding. So please do it. Thank you so much. Please go to the library.
This has been our PSA.
Please, guys, please. If we don't have libraries, we're cooked, bro.
We're cooked. You don't have to, and also libraries are a fantastic way to get out of the house without having to spend any money, but while also not having to be outside if it's really hot or if it's rainy. It's a place where you can go and spend time for free and be around other humans, which is awesome.
Yeah. And you can go on the computer probably. If you don't want to read a book, you can go on the computer. Yeah. I love you, the library.
I love you, the library. Izzy, will you recommend me a song this week?
Yes, I will. I'm going to recommend parentheses by The Blow.
Okay, never heard of it. I've never even heard of The Blow. Interesting.
Very good.
See, usually I use the time that you're flabbergasted by my asking you for a song to find my own song, but you have
had this one locked and loaded for a week.
Now I'm embarrassed.
No, don't be embarrassed.
Mine's gonna be, oh, you know what? I'm gonna do a Tally Hall song. It's gonna be their love song. It's gonna be from Good and Evil.
Mine's a love song too.
Okay, there it is. It's You by Tally Hall, Good and Evil. Two love song recommendations for you guys this week.
There you go. Feel the love.
We hope that you feel the love. We hope that you have enjoyed this conversation about libraries. Thank you for joining us on Jesters of the Round Table.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Jesters Roundtable. You can email us at jesterspod@gmail.com. Rate and review us on whatever podcasting device you're listening to. Also, we have expanded our availability to other applications. If you have one that we would like us to add it to, please let us know. You can do that. Easy peasy.
Okay, we'll see you guys next week. Bye. Did you hear that thunder?
No.
Okay, that's wild.
I just clapped my hands,
it's
though.
Crazy over
that
here.
That was me clapping my hands. You heard it all the way down there.
No, but there was...
No, that was a joke. That was a joke.
What were we talking about?
I don't know.
I wish... Yeah, because It's just really storming.
Oh, I heard that one.
You heard it? I kind of love it.
The Smithsonian.
Yeah?
Whoa, yeah. That rules.
I'm keeping it in, man.
You should. That was awesome.
I will.
It's my book. Are you kidding me? It's my book. I'm not gonna ruin it with book? With pencil? Are you kidding me?
Ruin it with book? I'm not gonna ruin my book with book.